Let's continue with your calls and thoughts here. The toll-free number 855-450-FREE. David is in Chesapeake, Virginia, listening to WNIS. Hello, David.
Hello, is this Ian?
It is.
And Mark.
Go ahead.
Well, hi. Yes, good talking to you. I've spoke to you before.
Welcome.
First and foremost, I'm not calling about race or anything like that.
Okay.
I live in a very diverse area in the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. Our police department is very diverse also. But my comment that I'd like to make is that with all the mayhem and the looting and, just a lawlessness basically for the ones that don't want to have peaceful demonstrations, would they rather that the police just don't show up and let them burn their own town down?
Yeah, I think that this is. I absolutely agree. The looting doesn't help anybody's story. It doesn't help to get the protests out there, or does it? I mean, there's lots of peaceful protests that go on in America, and they don't get a lot of news. However, looting, rioting, and fire certainly do.
Well, I'd like to point out that some business owners in Ferguson are saying the police aren't showing up.
Yes, and they're standing out in front of their stores with guns, and they're protecting them.
Right. Well, what I meant by that is, would that community just rather that the police didn't show up at all? And, because they seem to have a problem with it. And I understand about the
depends,
military.
Man. That's the thing. I mean, if the police were actually enforcing crimes with victims, if they were they were investigating, if 100% of the time they were investigating murders and rapes and robberies and things like that, then I don't think people would have as much of a problem with them showing up somewhere. They would likely be welcomed. But in a lot of cases, when the police show up, if they're showing up at your house, they might shoot your dog to death. They may arrest one of your brothers or sisters for having a plant on them, or who knows what other, victimless crime. So, yeah, I don't blame people for not wanting them around. The police are dangerous in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, one of the concerns I have here when it comes to security is that you don't have choices. So, the same department that shoots and kills this guy, whatever the circumstances are, is the one who's supposed to show up and maintain order. I can understand and empathize with somebody who's like, you know what, I would prefer to not have these same people telling me what's right and what's wrong. And if there was competition in the area of security, as opposed to one monopolistic organization that chooses that's chosen for you, then maybe people would be able to call some other agency.
Yeah, maybe they would be less likely to go out and destroy property if they knew that all they had to do, if they weren't happy with the services, was not fund the services anymore, and that they wouldn't have men with guns coming after them for not paying those taxes. Let's continue with your calls and thoughts here. By the way, Ferguson store owners saying there are no police, saying there's a lack of response. Looters in Ferguson, Missouri, this according to FoxNews.com, were met with little police resistance Friday night. Store owners said they were forced to protect their businesses with their own guns. Quote, I think the first message is to remind all law enforcement they're hired to serve and protect, and if they're going to sit back and watch looting, they're not serving us and they're not protecting us, said Pastor Robert White. Well, guess what? I unfortunately have some more bad news for you. Sorry to be the bearer of this, but they're there to serve and protect not you, but their masters in the state. They're there to serve and protect the politicians. They're there to serve and protect the city council. They're there to serve and protect the federal government, the state governments, the local governments. They're serving themselves with your money, and they're protecting their monopoly. That's what they're there to serve and protect. And every now and then they might actually stop a real criminal. That's great. I appreciate it when they go after real actual criminals. But here's people saying, look, you've got looters in the streets. What are the police doing?
Well, in a lot of cases, this isn't the individual police officers. This is the administrations, how they're being assigned. So if an individual police officer is assigned to do sort of riot duty and stand in a phalanx or whatever, and he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go protect the 7-Eleven over there. Well, he's going to get in big trouble. So I just want to point out that in many cases, we're not – I think that the corruption in police departments, because they're monopolies historically have always provided poor customer service. That corruption tends to come from the top down.
More from the Fox News story here. We're going to jump back into your calls, but a reporter from the station there, and one of the radio stations or TV stations, I'm not real clear, the Fox station there in the Ferguson area, reporter from the station tweeted that police cars were seen driving past some of the stores being looted and did not respond. And it rained in Ferguson on Friday night.
Generally don't want to respond unless they have a force that's in excess of the amount of people that are doing the looting.
Well, I think that, Mark, I understand where you're coming from on that. There are all kinds of reasons for the police to not take action, and the claim that officer safety is paramount is a very common claim when it comes to the police. The reason why the police didn't rush in at the Columbine shooting was because they had to make sure their officers were safe. They weren't really concerned about the kids. They weren't really concerned, in this case, about the stores being looted. They're concerned about their own safety. So again, are these the great paladins of justice out there to keep you and I safe?
What are
they?
Once again, that is standard operating procedure handed down by the brass. Like, you know, I can tell you when I wanted to go as a firefighter, when I wanted to go and drag a guy out of a vehicle that I thought was smoking, sitting next to a gas hydrant, a gas pumping thing, that my chief said, "Mark, don't you go in there." You know, he was very clear that I shouldn't go in until we had enough people. And he's probably right that I couldn't drag that, which guy was 320 pounds. I couldn't drag him out by myself.
Well, I understand you're not making excuses for them, Mark, but when people expect the police to do something and they're seen driving by the scene of people pulling stuff out through a storefront window just dragging equipment out. There's a picture that was taken of a couple guys busting into a store, they're coming out of the store they'd busted into with a huge, saw, like a big piece of equipment, just dragging the thing out of there. So, yeah, police just driving on by. 855, 450 free. You can take control here and bring up whatever's on your mind. This is the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. More from Ferguson, where, by the way, the curfew goes into effect in approximately 4 hours. So some people apparently were looting in Ferguson last night. Yesterday, when we were talking on the program here on Free Talk Live's Friday edition, when we were talking about this issue, we covered it pretty deeply for a couple of hours. And the last we'd heard out of Ferguson was that things were calm. The protests were happy. They were jubilant earlier in the day. And then apparently night fell and things dramatically changed with more looting happening and now a curfew being installed in the city. Apparently just for tonight. At least for now, it's going to go into effect at midnight Central Time, going through 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. Ferguson has been the hot topic tonight. A curfew is in place, or it will be in place here in about 4 hours. Midnight Central Time is when the curfew goes into effect in Ferguson all the way through 5 in the morning on Sunday. Whether there will be another one on Sunday night remains to be seen.
Depends on whether it works or not.
Whatever that means, whatever it means for a curfew to work. We didn't really dig into this idea a moment ago, but just to further let you know, now we don't know the details on far as will they be stopping people going to work? Will people who are trying to get to their job, will they be allowed to go where they're going to go? Are they going to be tailed by the police? Just make sure they're telling the truth about where it is they're going. How detailed, how oppressive will this curfew actually end up being? But I think any level of curfew is a disturbing thing. I think it's an indicator that things are not as free as you might expect that they actually are. And, when you physically cannot leave your home at night for fear that men with guns are going to put you in a cage for a while as a result of that, that should be an indicator. That should be a, heads up that you might be living in a police state. Our toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. And, of course, curfews, by the way, also keep good people off of the streets. So when this curfew is in effect, you will see the police will certainly be out and about, and then there probably will be some criminal element folks who are going to be around. But the thing that keeps people safe on the streets in most places aren't the police. In fact, we saw this happen with the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. After Katrina, people had been ordered to evacuate. And what happened was, once the good people of Louisiana or the New Orleans area were told to leave, the good business owners, the good homeowners, they were ordered out. They were no longer around to defend their store. Are the people who are defending their stores going to be subject to the curfew as well? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You can't stand here with that AK-47 defending your furniture store. You're going to have to go home now. It's curfew time. So you're taking the good people off of the streets as well. What if there's a neighborhood watch group that wants to go out and keep their streets safe in their neighborhood? they would also be prevented by this curfew from hitting the streets and making sure people are safe out there. So I think the curfew is a terrible idea.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.